Hi class, welcome to week 11. We're going to be talking about maintaining our Access database. You have 2 training modules that are not super long and a project due this week, and next week is our Unit 3 exams. So let's take a look at the presentation. I've got a copy of this on Canvas in our week 11 material. This is the PowerPoint. So we're going to be talking about maintaining our database, adding and changing and deleting rows or records in our table, searching for records and filtering which records are shown in a view. Maybe we need to change the design of our table, like add a column. We'll look at how to do that. Setting up some action queries to add records, update records, or delete records in our table. Look at how we can specify some validation rules and default values and formats for columns in our tables, and create single-valued and multi-valued lookup fields. See how we can add our revised table columns to an existing report, format a data sheet the way we want, and specify referential integrity where we have rows that are dependent upon other tables. Use a subdata sheet and sort records in that subdata sheet. So a lot of things that we need to do to maintain our database and keep it usable. Make sure it's got up-to-date information. As we look at the presentation, we'll look at how we can update records using a form, filter, change the structure of a table, make mass changes, create validation rules, change how our data sheet looks, specify referential integrity, and order records on our data sheet. First, let's look at creating a split form. For our video today, I'm going to be using a file that was found in our week 1 data file, the account XLS file, and I'll be setting that up for you on Canvas so that you can download it with this when you're watching this video. In this spreadsheet, we have some information on different accounts within our organization. So just account number, name, street, city, state. It's reasonable information, and it looks pretty similar to what we'll be looking at in this presentation. So in this same file folder where I have this, I'm going to create a new database, and I'll name this accounts. And I'm going to go ahead and open it. And of course I could have just said file new when I created my database, but I just wanted an empty one. So I'm going to go grab that Excel data. So it is external data, and I want to use that spreadsheet as a data source, and it is in a file that is an Excel format. So I'll just go find it. I've got it saved here on my desktop. And I want to import these rows into a new table in this database. Looking at the data, yes, we do have column headings in the first row. I'd like to change the name of this first field to AC #. That's how they have it set up and everything in our examples. But I don't think I need to change anything else. So I'll click, oh, I do want to make this account number an indexed field, and I don't want to allow any duplicate account numbers, no duplicates. Each account has to have their own number. Then when I click next, I can say that I want to choose the primary key, and I want it to be this account number that I said was going to be unique, because that's what a primary key is something that uniquely identifies an individual row in our table. When I click next, I can give this new table a name. It'll be accounts, and I'll finish. and I don't need to save those import steps. Now my accounts table exists. I'll double click to open it, and I should see all of the rows in my table that match up with the rows in the spreadsheet that we imported from. Okay, so we just imported that table. Now we want to create a split form, which is a great way to look at all of the data in your table. And they have some instructions here on our spreadsheet, or I'm sorry, our PowerPoint. So we want to go to Create, and we want a form, but we don't want any of these normally available forms. So we're going to click on the More Forms button, and we want to try the split form. Now notice this worked because we were looking at the accounts table and we had it selected over here in the navigation pane. So that's what I need to have going on when I create that form for it to use the right table. Now I can change the way I want that split. Looks great. Now to use my form, I'm going to go ahead and roll up this navigation pane, and I have all of my records available here, all the rows in my table, and up at the top I have individual fields for each column so that I could add additional rows. So if I wanted to add an additional row, I would click this new blank record icon, and then I could put in the information that I want to use. So we'll say this is going to be RR for mine, and this is going to be, how about Riley Manufacturing, and I'm going to press tab, 123 Way Road, and it looks like most everything that we're dealing with is in Illinois and Indiana. So I'll make it in Avondale, Illinois, 60311. And they haven't paid anything, and they don't owe anything because they're brand new, and their account manager is manager 58. Oh, it looks like 31 does Avondale. Now as soon as I press enter, that new row is added to our table. So easy enough for us to add something. Just use the icon, and right now it's ready to add another. So I could click on one of these existing rows to move the current information to that row that I clicked on and re-enable all of the icons down at the bottom. Now that shows me how to add records, and if I want to search for a record, again, I could open my form if it weren't open, and then I could use on the home ribbon the find tool, and I could find Granger and find next. Well, what I need to do is click on this city field, and now when I do find, I should be able to find Granger. There it is, and find next. And find next. Now the other options I have are to change what columns I'm looking in my find. So I could change that to the current document, and that would find my Granger even if I hadn't selected the city column. I could match the whole field or just part of it, and I can search up, down, or both directions. So it gives us a lot of options. We click cancel when we're done with our find. Now if I want to update a record, I can just type wherever I want. So if I decide that this name, Lancaster County Hospital, is not correct, it's just Lancaster City Hospital, I can just click in there and change it. and then we'll see our change reflected immediately. Whenever we're working with an Access database, remember our changes are saved automatically. So let's see, let's delete JSP here. We're going to select that whole row and then just press our delete key, and we'll be prompted, do we want to delete it? Sure, we'll delete that one. Now again, that row has been deleted and that change is saved. Now we're done looking at our form here. We're going to go back to our datasheet view. So I want to save this, and I'm going to name it Accounts Split Form, so that in my navigation pane I'm sure of what it is. I know that my forms are held separately, but I still sometimes feel like if I name things very specifically, it helps. Now looking at our datasheet view, we can do a lot in our datasheet view if we want to with filtering and selection. So in our city, again, we can use the select icon to just select certain items, and there we go. I can actually just do the down arrow when I've got it selected, and then I can select, let's see, I want to clear them all and just select Avondale, and then I just see those. I'll select all. Now I could change my comparison item to does not equal begins with, so let's try does not equal Avondale. Oops, nothing, huh? So I'll turn my filter back off so that I see all of my rows, and then select, oops, does not equal Avondale, and that gives us all of those ones that aren't Avondale. So we can do a lot of different selecting there, lots of options. Now again, I can turn that back off just by toggling it, turning it off, making sure that I'm clearing that filter, and I'm seeing all of my rows. Now the common filters are these filters that I was showing you here, where we can select based on the values, and we can use some advanced filtering with our forms. Looking at the form that we have, here we go, we can go to our filters and use an advanced filter by form. Then here in our city, we could type Avondale, and tab through the rest of it. So I had to click toggle filter to turn that filter on to see all of the rows that match that city in my filter by form. So I can advance again and clear my filter if I want to return back to seeing all of the rows. So a lot of great options for you. The advanced filter also allowed us to do OR conditions. So if we filter by form, and in our city, again, you can type Avondale, and then do or Davidson, and then just turn on our filter and see Avondale and Davidson. Okay. Now I'm going to close out this form, and looking at our table, our accounts table, we'd like to add a new column. We've decided that we're going to add an account type so that we know what kind of customers we're dealing with. So in our view, I'm going to switch to design view, and after our postal code and before our amount paid, we want to add a new column. So I'm going to right click and insert a row, just like I were working with Excel, and now I can add a new field or a new column. So we're going to actually add a lookup field. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in our presentation here to see how they set it out. So the field that we're going to create is account type, and our data type is going to be short text. That's fine. And down here in our properties of our field, we're going to change some information. So what we want to do is in our validation rule, for our lookup, we're going to put in a validation rule. It has to be SER or NON or IND. And notice that Access went ahead and put quotes around those different options. Now for our validation text, we're going to offer up a message for our user and say must be SER, NON, or IND. Our default value is going to be SER, so that way it will already be taken care of for our users. So let's see now if we can save this. I'm going to change back to a datasheet view and say yes, I want to save the table. It says, do you want the existing data to be tested with the new rules? Probably not, because we can go ahead and add our SER in there when we look at how we can create a query, and we can set things up ourselves. But I'd like to see now if our values are showing up, and they're sure not. So we need to have a list somehow of the different values that are available for our users. So I'm going to go back to design mode. And in design mode, we're still on our account type. And in the data type, it says that we want to click the Lookup Wizard. There we go. And in our Lookup Wizard, we want to type in the values that we want to display in that drop-down list. And what we would like here are SER, N-O-N or I-N-D. And these are going to be called our account type. And that's how it's labeling it for us, so that looks great. We do want to limit our users to this list. They can't make up any new ones, but they can only pick one. We're not going to let them pick more than one of these items. So let's finish. Now again, we should be able to go back to Datasheet View and test our changes. And if I look, I should see the choices that I have available. Alright, so that's a lookup field because it's going to look up the items that are available to us based on that list. Now we'd like to add another field. This is going to be a calculated field. So let's go back to our design view. And in our design view, again, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, but we want to create a new field that's going to be a calculated type. So it is going to be total amount, and it's going to be right after our current amount due. Let's see if they show it to us. We're going to have to figure it out ourselves, huh? Go back here a little bit. So we want to create this new field, and it's going to be after our amount paid. It's really going to be our total amount. So I'm going to insert it above the account manager. And this is going to be calculated. Now, how we want to calculate it is we want to take the amount paid plus the current amount due, and that should give us the total amount. Now, in our field information here, again, we could specify some other information for our field, but that'll be enough for us. So let's switch to Datasheet View and see how that's displayed for us. So there's our amount paid plus our current due, gives us our total amount. Looks great. So now we've added a lookup field and a calculated field. I'm going to back up in our presentation a little bit. We've got that done. Now we want to add an update query. So we can do that in a lot of different ways, but let's go to our Create tab to see them. And we want to do a query, our query tools. And we want it to be that table, close, and update query. And let's say what we want to do is in our table, we want to set that account type to SER. And right now, we're just going to do that to all of our rows, so we're not going to worry about any criteria. But it might be that we only wanted to set certain rows, so we could put criteria in, like equal, state equal Illinois, or whatever we wanted to do. Now I'm going to run this, and it says, oh, you're going to update all 15 of your rows. Are you sure? I'm going to say, yes, I want to update that. Now I could save this query. We'll call it update account type. Now if we close this, back to our accounts table, we should see our, our SER account type appear in all of our rows. So that was an update query. Now if we want to, we could also run a delete query. So again, we'd go to create and a query and choose our table, and we'd want to do a delete query, and we might want to say that if the city equals, what do we not like? Let's check. Wells, we only have one of those. So if the city equals Wells, we want to delete it. So go back to my query here. My query tools are the area where I'm going to find those different types of queries and the icon to run my query. I'll run it. It says you're about to delete that one row. Yes, I wanted to do that. I'll save this query. That will delete an account. And now I'm going to close it. And we should see that that row has been deleted. And it's showing up there as deleted, deleted, deleted. So we know that we got rid of it. Now, we can also change the design to specify certain things like required columns that we have to have in order for our database to be valid, keep our integrity. So one would be the account name. If we click on the account name, we can see that we've got required here, and we can say, yes, this is required. Now, if we have any sort of problem with that not being included, we can say the account name is required. That's all we have to do to make it required. Now we saw how we could specify the default value with our account type. We set it to, oops, it disappeared on us, equal SER. And now our validation rule says it has to be equal to one of these. That gives us all that great stuff we can do without ever writing any programming code, just having our database do all this work for us. All right. Now, to specify a format, we can use the format specifier. So let's look at our account number field. They've changed that now, so I'll change it. Account number. And they say the format here, they want it to be greater than. Now, when we're looking at these formats, we can have some different options. Let's see what that does in our datasheet view. And don't really see much change, huh? Now, when we're looking at our datasheet view, if we want to change the contents of a column, we can just click in it and change that. If we want to change the size, we move to the middle in between the columns until we get our resizing handles, and click and hold and drag that column over so that we've resized it. This one could probably be a little smaller. State doesn't need quite that much room. And we can resize all of our different columns to make it the size that we would like. Now in our account type with our lookup field, we saw that we could click in that field and use the down arrow to get our desired choice. Now we need to add one more column to our table. So let's go back to Design View. And in Design View, we're going to put this after our account type. And this is going to be our services needed. And for our services needed, this is going to be a lookup field. And we want to type in the values that we want. And we're going to put in the information that's shown here. BCK, oops, back. I should have tabbed there instead of pressing enter. And Ben, and COM, MGT, PAY, REC, RSK, TCH, TRN, WRK. So these are meaningful to us. We're going to limit that to the list, but we're going to allow multiple values, so a little different than our last lookup table. And when we finish, we should be able to see that in our datasheet view. We'll go ahead and add our validation rule though before we go look at that. So we want it to be equal to BCK or equal to BEN or equal to COM or equal to MGT or equal to PAY or equal to REC, RSK, TCH, WRK. Our validation text is going to say, please choose one or more services. Now we don't need a default value, so I'm going to go to Datasheet View and save that update. And yes, I want it to apply. Nah, I don't need to test that. So as we look at our services needed, it didn't get put in the right place. Let me move it. I'm going to go back to Design View. Whoop. And I'm going to, it's in the right place in our field, so I'm going to select it here and drag it over, clicking and dragging. And now on my services needed, when I look at the lookup, I should see these multiple options available. Coolness, and it'll save them for us like that. So however we want to handle that. Now we've changed our table and we had our form here since we were using it. Let's look at that form. And in Design View, let's see if we can fix this. We should be able to click this Add Existing Fields button, and it shows us that we have all of these fields. We want to add, let me move this down a little bit. We want to add the account type. put it? Okay, let me undo it so you see how it is. It's kind of a pain, so I'm going to try to put my cursor here and click account type, and I want to move them both. So why aren't you both moving for me? I'll press Control, click, and now move. Still not moving it. Almost. Okay, I did it. So now I've got my account type. Woohoo! And services needed. Let's see, what do we want? Services needed value. And again, I'm going to try to select them both and move them. Much easier, huh? And then where we have our amount paid and current due, we have this new total amount. So I think I'll move the account manager information down. Not over, just down. Stop it. And then I'm going to try to add in this total amount. And I'll select that by pressing Control and try to move it right here. There we go. Now that allowed us to add our new fields. Let's move this into Form View, and we should see, if we move this down just a little bit, we can see everything. I'll go to our next row. It seems like we're not getting all of our services needed. My poor computer. Now can we see more? Nope. Again, we're only seeing like one. So interesting. In our form, because we have multiple services needed, we're only seeing the first one. So I'm going to save this and close it and know that that's a thing that we have going on. But I'm going to now go on to our totals. And we want to look at totals in our data sheet. So I'm looking at our table that we like in Datasheet View, and I want to go to our Home tab, and on our Home tab I want to click on the Totals button, and then I can click the total row in the desired column and then see what I want. I think I want the sum. That's a lot. How about the average? Great. The max, the minimum. Gives me some great information. Okay. Now I could also change the grid lines. Let's look at, click the box in the upper left corner of the datasheet selector to select the entire datasheet. So I'm going to turn this around. Change everything. And I want to select the entire datasheet right there. Click the Gridline button on the Home tab. So in my Home tab, I should be able to find my grid lines. Is it this? Nope. There it is. Now, we can choose whatever grid lines we like. Let's try just horizontal. So if you notice that changed where we don't see the separations, the grid lines between our different fields, I could turn that back on then. Both. Alright, so that's our common format that we're used to looking at. Now I might also want to change the colors. So again, I can select the entire sheet or whatever I want. And then in my Home tab, I'm going to find the alternate row color button. There it is. When I look, I'll try a different color here. Oh, that's nice. Now I can also change my font colors. So, of course, if I want it to be what color would you like this to be? Let's try orange. We should be able to see that. Can't see it. Now, we can choose also whatever font we like. Nice and big. And then we can choose our font size, of course. So we can set everything to be accessible. Now they can see it. All right. So we can do a lot with this data sheet, and of course we can save that so that it follows us around and stays there. Now, if we want to create a query, let's create a query for our account table. So I'm going to create a query, and I want my account table. Now I want to include some fields that I want in here. So let's say I want my account number and my account name, an account type, and then I want to include our new multi-valued field, our services needed. And so we can know that we're only going to have a single value for any of these items. Like, we could say all of the account types equal this single value, and then this column we could say this value or this value or this value, because we might have multiple. So we can add dot value to our query, and then we could choose all of the ones that were, I don't know, what did we pick? Do we have any? We had Ben here. And then if we go to our query tool, we should be able to run it. And then we found that one. So we can do all sorts of great things there. Now this query I'm going to just close. No, we don't need that multi-valued query. Now sometimes we need to create relationships in our database to say that things are related to each other. So for example, if we were to create an account manager table, then we would want to relate that table here to our accounts table. So let's do that. I'm going to use our create menu to create a table, and I want to use the table designer, and I'm going to have the account manager number. What did we call this one? Let me see. It's got to be big. There it is. So I want to make sure it's the same thing. Account manager number. And let me go to design view on this one. That'll make it easier. It's short text. And we want this one to have an index because I want it to not allow duplicates. And then this can be our primary key. And then that way we know what our key field is. And we'll call it now their name. Oh, okay. So let's say account manager name and city and state, and we'll just leave it at that, okay? So we'll save this table as our account managers table, and now we want to specify that we have a relationship here. Before we do that, we need to create some rows in our account manager table. So I'm going to go to a data sheet view, and what I want to do is create some account managers. So if we look at data sheet view for our accounts, we need account manager 31, and this will be Joe Smith, and he's in Avondale, Illinois. And then we need another one that is 35. Roy Jones, and he's in Granger, Illinois. Now we have to have an account manager for every row in our table when we create this relationship, or else we'll have some errors. So we also need 58. And let's see, where is 58? Carlton. And we'll make him be Carl McDonald. Alright, so now we have account managers for all of our accounts tables. Let's make sure 31, 35, 58. Yep, I don't see any other numbers other than that. So great, let's go create that relationship. In our database tools ribbon, we'll see the relationships button, and we want to add both of these tables, and we'll close that. And we want to say that our account manager number, I'm going to drag so I can see that field on both of these tables. But our account manager number over here in our account managers, I'm going to click on it and hold my mouse button and drag it over here to my account manager number in my accounts table. And now it's going to set up this relationship. And it says that your account manager's table is related to your accounts table. And yes, it is. And I do want to enforce referential integrity. And that means a few things. First of all, I can't create an account unless my account manager number exists in the account manager's table. Now I can also enforce some other rules. So I can say that if somebody deletes an account manager row, I want to delete the associated accounts. Or I can say that I want to update the associated records. We'll do that, but we don't ever want to delete any of our customer rows. We want to give them new account managers, so we won't cascade delete. But we're going to go ahead and create this join in this relationship. Oops, I've got to close everything. Okay. Darn. So let's go close and close. Yes, I want to change the layout to that ugly thing. Now let's try that again. In my account manager table, I'm going to grab my account manager number, click and drag and drop it on my related table. I'm going to enforce referential integrity and cascade updates. Now my relationship is shown here in my relationships diagram, and that's exactly what I wanted. Now my database knows that everything is good there. So I can close this relationships. And yes, I want to save those changes. Now I'm going to open my navigation pane, and if I look at my account managers in a datasheet view, notice I have this new plus sign, and that is a sub-data sheet view that lets me see all of the accounts that belong to this account manager. So I can close it, update it, see all their totals. How awesome is that? So that sub-data sheet gives me all that great information. Now I also could sort. So if I want to sort by city, I could click here and click ascending. Now it changed all of my rows. I could also do my sub data sheet, and now you see all my cities being sorted. So that's pretty awesome. And that's what we needed to do this week for our access material. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great week and have had a great holiday. Thanks.